Casting a warm, flickering glow across the room, her eager children await their first meal. With her limited supply of food, she prepares a simple dinner for her family. Hope, unity, and love in the face of adversity. They gather together in this fleeting moment, unaware of what tomorrow will bring.
Mommy, I'm freezing.
Me too, darling. Have some water.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, dear viewers. Welcome to Ahkam SOS, the show that discusses Islamic duties and practices. We would like to first take the opportunity to congratulate the Imam of our time, Imam al-Mahdi Ajjallah Ta'ala Farajuh al-Sharif, number one, and the Muslim Ummah, as well as our grand Maraja and scholars, and you, dear viewers at home, and on the auspicious occasion of the birth of Imam Muhammad al-Jawad alayhi salam. We would like to first welcome our dear guest, Sheikh Ali Ma'ash. Assalamu alaikum, Sheikhuna.
Alaykum assalam wa rahmatullah wa as'adallah ayamakum.
As'adallah ayamana wa ayamakum. Is there any specific hadith about this occasion of the birth of Imam Muhammad al-Jawad alayhi salam?
Salaam Allah alayhi, inshallah. A'udhu billah as-sami' al-alim min ash-shaytan ar-rajim. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Alhamdulillahi rabbil alameen wa sallallahu ala Muhammadin wa alihi at-tahirin wa la'natullahi ala a'da'ihim ajma'een. We have a chapter in Kitab al-Kafi in which talks about the appointing of Imam al-Jawad alayhi salam as the vicegerent and wasi after the demise and the martyrdom of Imam Rida alayhi salam. So each Imam appoints one, his son, before he departs this world. So in this hadith, a man states, a narrator, he says that I was standing in the presence of Imam Rida alayhi salam in his gathering, in his majlis. كنت واقفا بين يدي أبي الحسن عليه السلام بخراسان. So I was in his gathering in Khurasan, maybe today's a great Mashhad, let's say, maybe beyond the border of Iran towards Afghanistan and other parts. Because Khurasan was a great area in that time.
It's a large area. Yeah.
Exactly. So he said that I was standing there and listening to what was being said in that gathering. فقال له قائل, a man told the Imam عليه السلام, وأصل الإمام عليه السلام, يا سيدي إن كان كون فإلى من? Oh my master, if something happens to you, then who we should go back to after your demise, in other words. قال عليه السلام, the Imam Rida said, سلام الله عليه, إلى أبي جعفر ابني. You have to refer back to Abu Ja'far, يعني Imam al-Jawad عليه السلام, my son. So the Imam officially appointed his son, Imam al-Jawad, as his vicegerent and the Imam after him. فكأن القائل استصغر سن أبي جعفر عليه السلام. This man who was standing and witnessing this conversation with the Imam and the other person, he said, it seems to be that he took it as a belittle in terms of the age of the Imam al-Jawad alayhi salam, because he was around the age of 7 or 9 in that time, in that range. So the man seems to be, didn't have that strong aqidah towards Ahlul Bayt, that even the Ma'asum, if he was a child and he became the Imam, he is still Hujjah, he is actually considered as the Imam, and people can refer back to him and ask their questions and so forth. So Imam al-Rida alayhi salam, he responds to this man who was dubious about the Imamah to Imam al-Jawad in this little age, 7 or 9. Imam said to him, and he brought evidence from the Holy Quran. He said, Salamullah alayh, إن الله تبارك وتعالى بعث عيسى ابن مريم عليه السلام رسولا نبيا. That Allah Azza wa Jal, He sent Isa as a messenger and as a prophet. If you go back to the Quran, you'll find this verse where Isa alayhi salam, in his cradle, he would say to the Jewish rabbis, إني عبد الله آتاني الكتاب. A newly born baby, a child, he talks in his cradle, in his mahad, to those scholars that I am the servant of Allah Azza wa Jal, and I was given the holy book. وَجَعَلِي نَبِيًّا, and He made me as a prophet as well. So the Imam brings this evidence from the Holy Quran. Then he says, صاحب الشريعة مبتدأة فيه أصغر من سن الذي فيه أبو جعفر عليه السلام. He was younger than Abu Ja'far when he received this revelation or this message of Allah Azza wa Jal. As I've said, he was in his cradle and he said, إني عبد الله آتاني الكتاب. So it doesn't matter, the prophets or the messenger or the imam, the vicegerent, even if they receive this leadership position or the imam, even if at their young age, still is acceptable, because we have the Quranic verses, we have the examples in the history. Even today's day and age, if you look, for example, you might see some youngsters who are genius, who are clever, they invent, they create in their teenage. So we have these examples in the history, in the past history. So it's not something يعني,
I believe as well,
vague and strange.
Apologies Sheikh to interrupt, but I believe even in the Quran it talks about Nabiullah Yahya alayhi salam, وَأَتَيْنَاهُ الْمُلْكُ
حكم
صَبِيًّا.
صبية. Exactly.
As in the Prophet Yahya alayhi salam was given the opportunity to govern at a very young age. So it's not strange for the imams to be at a very young age as well, I think.
Exactly.
Thank you very much, Sheikhna, for your wise words. We would like to actually inform, because this is a live show, we would like to inform our dear viewers that this is a live show and you can send your questions, any questions in terms of ahkam and daily practices into the live show. Send them, you can just have to scan the QR code and you can send your questions, either the YouTube live chat or privately via the WhatsApp. All you have to do is just scan the QR code and you will go to the directed links. I believe we already have questions from the YouTube live chat. Assalamu alaikum Sheikhuna.
Salam.
Can I buy chess but not play with it?
Even buying is not permissible, it's not allowed. So one should refrain from playing or buying this tool of game in which we have numerous narrations and hadith that forbids the play and the possession of this type of game. Could be that originally it was a gambling game, for example. Yeah.
Thank you very much, Sheikh. Another question from the YouTube. Can I play with a non-Muslim girl without any physical touch?
Any acts with the opposite gender that would may lead towards the acts of haram, arousal of lust, temptation would be forbidden. So one should close all the doors that leads to eventually to the haram through chatting in a way as a friendship, as the Quran states, وَلَا مُتَّخِذِي أَخْدَانِ, do not consider friends from the opposite gender. Eventually will lead to the haram, because shaitan will be strong at that time, in that moment, and will in somehow, would cause the haram to be committed from both sides.
Thank you very much. What is the fatwa? This is a question from the WhatsApp. What is the fatwa about Ahlul Kitab? Are they ritually pure or tahir?
We have different opinions by the ulama today and even in the past. Some would say that they are pure, tahir, according to narrations with this regard. And some would consider them as najis and impure, again, according to other narrations. So it depends on the marja' you follow. If he considers them as tahir, you can treat them as tahir, so there's no issue in terms of dealing when it comes to, let's say, cooking and serving food and so forth with their moist and wet hands, for example. if you follow the marja, which says they are najis, then you have to prevent, avoid any kind of cross-contamination in terms of the food.
Or any contact in that case.
Contacts,
Another question from the WhatsApp. Is it permissible to tell a lie when there is a danger threatening your life?
You see, in terms of lie, there is an exception with this regard. That, for example, if a husband and wife are in dispute and they're on the edge or the brink of divorce, then one can, for the islah, one can do so to bring them back. So there are exceptions with lying, and not something open. So in terms of danger, again, we have to see the dalil and the evidence that one who is in danger, can they also do it? We have actually taqiyya, for example. Taqiyya is what? To conceal your aqidah and to look like others. That's what Ammar did, Ibn Yasir. And the Holy Quran has mentioned the verse that when he was caught by the mushrikeen of Mecca in the beginning of the da'wah of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, they brought him and his parents, Yasir and Sumayya. Of course, Yasir and Sumayya did not observe taqiyya and they were killed. And the first shuhada of Islam in Mecca. But Ammar observed taqiyya. And he uttered the words of the shirk. And the Prophet and the Holy Quran affirmed that this is وَقَلْبُهُ مُطْمَئِنٌ بِالْإِيمَانِ. Of course, he said something, but his heart was filled with iman and taqwa. So in this case, yes, one can actually do so, according to the Holy Quran and the narrations.
So they concealed their faith to protect what they
exactly
actually believe
and that's what Ammar did. You know, a great Sahabi of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, that he uttered the words of shirk just to, save his life. And of course, he served Islam greatly till the Battle of Siffin, in which he was killed by the sword of the Muawiyah soldiers.
That's correct. Thank you very much, Sheikh. A question from the YouTube. How much is the cost of feeding a needy for a kafara?
Let's say a portion of food, let's say, أطعامه 60 مسكين, for example, that you feed them. Let's say rice and qima, for example, that kind of thing. The food that you usually eat.
So it's a portion, basically.
Portion of food, yeah.
Thank you very much, Sheikh. Another question from the YouTube. Assalamu alaikum. Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullah. Do usulis believe that if you do not follow a marja, your namaz and fast and other actions won't be accepted?
I haven't looked into such topics, to be honest, but of course there were in the past some kind of dispute between the usulis and the akhbaris, and some even didn't pray behind the other in some cases. So there was some kind of dispute. Alhamdulillah, now we have majority of usulis, so almost the akhbaris is almost vanished from today's the Shia society in overall.
Thank you very much, Sheikh. Question from the WhatsApp. Is wrestling and boxing matches allowed without placing a bet?
If there's no harm towards the other side, so serious harm, let's say to disable an organ or to, let's say, cause severe harm, then of course it's allowed.
Thank you very much, Sheikh. A question from the WhatsApp. Is it permissible for a Muslim to involve in pleasure by continuing to watch an entertaining movie even though salat time is due, and then he goes to his prayer just before it becomes overdue or qada?
It is mentioned by one of the ulama that seems to be a hadith or something, that somebody who delays intentionally his salah till before the sunrise or sunset and midnight and so forth, they will not be given a place in paradise, a castle or a house and so forth. He will become, or she will become, as a guest for those who are in paradise. So imagine that you won't have your own castle or, let's say, a house or a villa in paradise, but you'll be moving from one place to another to be. You're in paradise, definitely, no doubt there, but you will be as a guest in paradise. So these are all levels and positions and status for those who obey Allah Azza wa Jal, but to an extent it depends on your acts and deeds.
Thank you very much, Sheikh. Is tattooing a sexual picture haram?
What kind of tattoo?
An indecent image, basically.
Of course, whatever causes arousal of lust and whatever causes temptation, of course, that would be forbidden. So it depends on how they portray these tattoos.
Thank you very much, Sheikh. A question from the YouTube live chat. Can we drink urine if we don't have any water?
You see, again, if somebody is on the edge of, let's say, in a desert, in a nowhere land, there's nothing, there's only najis stuff to consume, meat, dead animal, and so forth, just to save your life. And sometimes it becomes wajib, because now you're going to kill yourself by not consuming these impure stuff in terms of food or drink. In this case, just an amount that would keep you alive for the next couple of hours until help comes. Or you find your way, for example, then one can do so.
I mean, as far as I'm concerned, I believe even drinking urine when there's no water available, it's actually really bad for you because it drains any other moisture that's in the body. So it does the reverse, actually. Instead of quenching your thirst, it makes you even more thirsty, I believe. We would like to remind our dear viewers at home that you just have to scan this QR code and send any question. It's very open. Whatever you want to send, there's nothing too taboo. Anything to do with daily practices in your daily life, Islamic-wise or not, you can send your questions. All you have to do is scan the QR code and it will lead for you to either the WhatsApp chat, which you can send, or via the YouTube live chat, you can send in your questions. I believe this is another question from WhatsApp. Fortune tellers and palmists claim to foretell a person's future. Is it permissible for the palmist to do so if the customer is going to plan his life according to his predictions?
One should distance himself or herself from these individuals. Only Allah Azza wa Jalla knows the ghaib. They might have some kind of knowledge, but they didn't get it from the right sources. And only the one who is connected to the wahi, to the revelation, can tell you what's going to happen in the future. So one should avoid going to these people.
How about if you would take it as a matter of a joke, not something really serious that you're talking about here, in terms of other people's futures?
I mean, one should avoid it, at least morally, akhlaqi.
As in, like, I think in some cultures, especially in probably some Arab or Levant cultures, when they would drink coffee and the grains of the coffee at the end, they would turn it upside down and look, and they would, for example, foretell the future of the person who's drinking the coffee. Is that Islamically allowed or not?
I haven't heard anyone saying it's forbidden, but as a morally, as I've said, one should avoid such things.
Thank you very much. Question from the WhatsApp. Some men shave their beard and leave some hair on the chin alone. Is this sufficient enough according to Sharia?
I think one of the ulama allowed to shave the side of the face and to leave the chin. One of the ulama, but now I think the majority would say that you have to keep it.
I believe. I'm not sure, but from the back of my head, I believe one of the ulama, I think, was Ayatollah Sayyid Al-Khou'i.
Seems to be.
I think so. Yeah.
If I'm not wrong. Yeah.
Okay, fair enough. Another question from the YouTube. Salaam alaikum. I'm studying in non-Shia madrasa and I wanted to do my prayer in a Shia way, but my classmates are bullying me. What should I do?
One should be strong and to ignore the mockings of the others. Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam was mocked, was ala kulli hal laughed at. The prophets of Allah Azza wa Jalla, same thing. Nuh alayhi salam, when he was building the ark, they laughed at him. One should be strong and be able to observe his aqidah, his beliefs, worships, without any doubt, without any regression, because anyhow they will surrender one day. When you're strong, they will leave you to practice your faith, inshallah.
Inshallah. A question from the WhatsApp chat. What is your ruling on getting one's work done through bribery?
Bribery is haram and forbidden. And I think there's a la'an Allah al-rashi wal-murtashi. There's a la'an mentioned as well. I think even the Ahlul Sunnah mentioned this hadith, that the one who gives or receives the bribe is being cursed.
In this case, for example, some countries that have not been developed as much as other countries, maybe, if, for example, third world countries, a lot of government work is based on, if you want to finish a certain document that you have, or for one of your kids or your wife or anything, you have to give in a bribe to actually finish it off most of the time. What is the hukum of that if that's the only solution left?
I think some ulama would not allow it. That's if that goes against the law of the government of the country, because that's basically money you get under the table and somehow without the knowledge of the government or the governing body anyhow. So some would not allow it.
Thank you very much. I believe there's questions coming from the WhatsApp. When I travel to my second home with the intention of going back to my initial home that very day, do I pray qasr or not?
So you have two homes or two watan, let's say, two homelands. In both homelands, you pray full because you're no longer musafir now. So let's say I live in London and also I live in Najaf for studies, for example. So I'm 6 months here, 6 months there. Now I have two watans. Number one is London, number two is Najaf for my studies. So when I go to Najaf, I won't pray qasr, I'll pray full because that's my second homeland in anyhow. Of course, some would say you have to stay there 6 months, some would say 1 year, so it depends really, the conditions of how you define homeland, second homeland or watan.
Another question from the WhatsApp. What is the ruling about animal cloning?
Ayatollah Sayyid Muhammad al-Shirazi, rahmatullah alayhi, he spoke about this about 25 years ago when they did the first cloning of the sheep Dolly in Scotland. A scientist who invented this kind of, and the Sayyid, he wrote, I think, a pamphlet and book about this issue, that he allowed it anyhow, that there's no Shari'i issue with this regard. In terms of human cloning, then that would be a different soul, different, it could look like myself, 90%, let's say. But this individual has his own ruh, so he will be accounted, the hisab different than myself, because now he's got another ruh, an aqil, separate than mine. We could look like exactly the same, like a twins, but that individual is separate. So I think the fatwa at that time was some kind of permitted in somehow. I don't know if today's ulama would not allow it or allow it. I haven't seen it.
I mean, recently in some labs they've been, it's called lab-grown meat. They clone some cells from an animal, either a cow or a sheep, and they would grow that meat from that cell inside the lab. In terms of if it was taken from for example, a halal slaughter, a halal lamb, a halal cow, is that meat that's grown in a lab halal or not?
The meat that you can consume and is halal, permissible, is the one which is slaughtered and not grown scientifically in the lab and so forth. You have to eat the meat when it's slaughtered towards the qibla with a sharp knife. Exactly. This is the only type of food, meat you can consume. Otherwise, you can't consume it.
Okay, that would make sense. Thank you very much, Sheikh. Question from the WhatsApp. A civil divorce according to the law of a Western country took place. The husband is adamant not to grant his wife a Shar'i divorce, does not provide maintenance for her and not accept mediation. What should the woman do, noting that her practice would certainly wear thin and eventually put her in an untenable situation or haraj?
Best thing is to raise her issue to the Ahkam SOS, the marji' or his rep, and they can basically proceed with the Shar'i talaq or divorce without even going back to the husband somehow. Of course, they have to tell him that you're going to be divorced, such and such, and then the woman can ask for the divorce if he's actually abandoning her in this way. Because the civil divorce is not Shar'i divorce. They're still married. So unless the Maulana or the Alim comes in and he says, Fulan, طالق, طلقة كذا إلى آخره, he recites the Shar'i talaq, wordings. Otherwise, it won't be of course, with the presence of two witnesses,
Witnesses
shuhud,
as well, yeah.
and so forth, then of course that could be, of course, the official talaq as a result.
Thank you very much, Sheikh. Another question from the WhatsApp. When there is no heir for a deceased Muslim person in the foreign land, who should take charge of his burial?
Of course, a Muslim must be buried in the Islamic way, of course, in the Muslim cemetery. So they have to find somebody, ala kulli hal, in the neighborhood, for example, in the other cities, for example. Now, alhamdulillah, you have Muslims everywhere, from New Zealand all the way to Alaska. You have Muslims living all around the world, so they have to find it somehow. And it's wajib shari'i, wajib, it's a wajib kifai. Everyone is responsible. So if one comes forward and he takes in charge of the burial, khalas, it's waived from the others. It's wajib shari'i for a Muslim to take care of the burial. Yeah.
In terms of the inheritance of some people, for example, some people pass away with no actual close relatives next to them in a foreign country. What happens to the inheritance in that case?
Again, they have to go back to the Ahkam SOS and to come to settlement and to see how things work. That's the best way.
Okay, thank you very much, Sheikh. We're going to take a very short break, and inshallah we'll be back to be answering the rest of your questions.
Fell in love with my other part of my life, the other chapter of my book, I suppose.
Okay.
And that was hip hop.
Oh, right.
Hip hop.
I thought it was a female, but you went.
No. Well, father's a Khoja, my mother's English.
You look like Uncle Baxter.
Uncle Fester.
Is that Uncle Fester?
Uncle Fester. Living in quite a small town, I witnessed racism towards my dad. Mum and dad divorced quite early. Fuzzy Wuzzy was a bear.
Fergie, Wergie, Bergie, Reg.
So that's the guy that built the Empire State Building.
Oh, is it?
Yeah, so this is in New York.
Okay.
So I thought, let's pick his nose. Until my son was born, I would be out. I'd be DJing, clubs, venues. There's one simple thing that brought me out of it, and his name is Imam Ali.
MashaAllah.
That's it.
I have a question regarding keeping pictures of
Is it
scholars at
permissible to
home.
plant trees by or
What
over
does Islam
the
establish
graves?
based on peace and
Is it permissible
non-violence?
to collect donations for charity projects from
Is it permitted
individuals?
to consume canned food imported from non-Muslim
Is there
countries?
an issue for men looking at non-Muslim women?
To have your questions answered live, WhatsApp us on +44 7415 09 2155.
Welcome back to Ahkam SOS, the show that discusses Islamic duties and practices. All you have to do in this show is scan the QR code and you can send your questions live via either the WhatsApp or the YouTube live chat, and inshallah your questions will be answered by Samahat Sheikh Ali Maash. Assalamu alaikum, welcome back.
Alaikum assalam.
We've got questions from the WhatsApp. Assalamu alaikum, wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullah. What are the rulings of tasawwuf or irfan? Is that permissible or is it bid'ah?
These are all batil, tasawwuf and arfan, aqidah, which is not in line with the Kitabullah and the progeny, Atat Ahl Bayt, as the Prophet said many times in his narrations, recorded the books of the Shia and the non-Shia as well, in the Sahih, that he left two weighty things, the book of Allah and his progeny. He didn't leave tasawwuf or arfan or falsafa, which is against the path of Ahl Bayt alayhi salam. The true irfan is through Ahl Bayt, not the irfan of Ibn Arabi and others who deviated the ummah with their wrong beliefs and deviations.
Thank you very much, Sheikh. Question from the YouTube. Can we sell our old clothes to someone but we don't tell them we used them before?
You see, you shouldn't be deceiving people when you're selling something. So if they think that this is a brand new and you tell them it's brand new, but actually they are, let's say,
Being used.
And of course, that's some kind of deception. You have to be honest with people.
Thank you very much. Question from the WhatsApp. Is playing cricket forbidden? And what about watching cricket and other sports on television?
Cricket, football, basketball, I don't know, American football, rugby is all allowed to watch or to play. But when it comes betting on these games, of course, then it becomes haram. You shouldn't participate in betting and gambling.
Usually betting and gambling is in terms of money. But for example, if I've got a bet with my friend, but it's not to do with money. For example, I would invite you to a restaurant, or I'll buy you food if, for example, my team wins. Is that allowed or not?
Try to avoid it in anyhow.
But it's not haram in that specific case in terms of...
I mean, it depends. As I've said, if it's betting, you know, the urfi meaning of betting, then of course it becomes haram. You know, the one which, of course, we know about it.
Thank you very much, Sheikh. Question from the WhatsApp. Can we do qasas to someone who ordered people to kill Shias?
When it comes to the capital punishments and so forth, you have to go back to the Ahkam SOS, the marja', who is leading the ummah. And he will actually be the judge towards these issues, that either qasas, or to pay blood money, or to forgive this individual who killed that innocent person.
Thank you very much. I believe there's a question from the WhatsApp. Assalamu alaikum. This is quite a long question. I'm engaged with a woman, but not Islamically. My parents forbid me from doing my nikah as they say we are too young. We are both 20 years old. As we are still studying university, we are both doing very long courses and we have been waiting a long time to do our nikah. What should I tell my parents as we are both unhappy waiting this long?
I mean, the issue is if the girl is not a Muslim, let's say Ahl Kitab, or let's say she's a Muslim and she's virgin, she needs a consent from her father for any kind of nikah. If she's Ahl Kitab, because their nature or their culture would be that a virgin is free to go out and have a friendship and so forth, then of course there's no need for the permission of the father in this case. If this was the situation, you know, sometimes you have Orthodox Christians that they wouldn't allow the girls to go out with anyone, for example. It depends on the type of or the sect of the Ahl Kitab, ala kulli hal. But in anyhow, any relationship outside the wedlock or outside the nikah contract is forbidden. You have two options: either the permanent nikah contract, i.e. the marriage, the permanent marriage, or the short-term marriage, until you complete your studies, and then you can decide to continue or to end this relationship.
Thank you very much, Sheikh. Can I bet on horse riding?
As I've said, betting, gambling is haram, it's forbidden. So horse riding or football or rugby is all haram, to bet on these games.
Thank you very much, Sheikh. Question from the WhatsApp. Assalamu alaikum. Alaikum salam. If covering the head was a recurrent in each ihram, should kaffara be repeated for every incident?
In terms of the ahkam of the Hajj and Umrah, of course, one should be basically, because we've been a long time away from these rulings, so I can't really give you specific hukum. I think we did a full episodes of, I think, whole season about Hajj a couple of years ago. So best to go back to the Risala Amaliya fi Marja' to see if this is allowed, I mean, just once, or you have to repeat the kafara.
Assalamu alaikum, Sayyid and Sheikh. Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullah. If the Prophet did not put the Quran on his head during Laylatul Qadr, can we do acts better than what was good enough for him to do?
You see, these a'mal that we do, there is a source for it. It doesn't come out of nothing. You know, there is a source for it, either by Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam or his Ahlul Bayt progeny, because he said, I leave two weighty things, the Book of Allah and my progeny, Ahlul Bayti. So if the Ahlul Bayt did this, of course, we follow them. So because they interpret the prophetic sunnah of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and they are, have the priority to represent Rasulullah before the Sahaba.
Thank you very much, Sheikh. I believe there's a question from YouTube. Assalamu alaikum. Wa alaikum salam.
Salam.
Hadith al-Kisa and Ayat Tathir shows us that 3 out of the Imams are infallible. How about the 9 other Imams?
Well, when it says that Allah wants to purify Ahlul Bayt, thorough purification, it would also include the rest of the A'immah. So the 9 A'immah from Imam Hussein Salamullah. So it's not just the 5 punished them back, but it would also include the rest of the 9 A'immah till Imam Mahdi Ajallah Farajahu al-Sharif.
Ajallah ta'ala farajahu al-Sharif. Question from the YouTube. What should Muslims do if there's no scholar or sheikh nearby?
Alhamdulillah, today we have the social media, we have the mobile phones, all these apps to contact the ulama. You have the video, let's say, chats and so forth. I don't think there's any excuse one can offer that I can't contact the alim. You can even contact someone who is, let's say, even flying in the airplane. You can talk to them as well through specific, maybe mobile phones or ala kulli hal. So there's no excuse. You can contact, you can find details on internet, for example. Type your question, for example. You find it there and your own marja as well. So I don't think there's any excuse one can say, I couldn't find the mas'ala, what should I do?
Thank you very much, Sheikh. Question from the YouTube. My school does not allow me to pray. What should I do?
Well, the salah cannot be left, لا تترك الصلاة بحال, as the hadith says. You have to pray anyhow. If you can find a corner away from the, let's say, the knowledge of those who, let's say, I don't know, the head teacher, whoever, you have to pray in somehow. You can't pray qada. It's forbidden. So find a corner. It's just a 5-6 minutes. If you want to pray quickly without mustahabbat, dhuhr, asr, you can pray them both 6-7 minutes in your break time, for example, or lunch time, for example. You don't have to go and pray in the office, office room, or let's say a prayer room. I think there's now one of the schools wants to prevent in the UK to prevent the prayer rooms for the Muslims. So there's an issue raised just recently. No, the salah, you have to pray it in somehow.
Thank you very much, Sheikh. Question from the WhatsApp. Am I obliged to tell my child to call his dad even though his dad doesn't care and always speaks negatively?
I mean, the Quran says, وَجَادِلْهُمْ بِالَّتِي أَحْسَنَ, to speak to those individuals with good manner and wise speech. We have to use the akhlaq, we have to use the good words, we have to use the wisdom and hikmah to be able to deliver our message. If we have a message in which would guide, not only the people, sometimes I have to be some kind of a guider for my family members, siblings, sons, daughters, wife, husband. So we try to use the best method to attract the others towards the Holy Quran and, of course, the teachings of Ahlul Bayt and Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam.
Question from the YouTube live chat. Working in an IT company where the job is to install software applications for both halal and non-halal companies. Is this permissible or not?
I mean, it depends who is it for, what kind of software is it, for example. In overall, it's allowed, but what kind of job is this, for example? I'm not sure, it's not clear.
Thank you very much, Sheikh. A question from the YouTube. Why was Mukhtar Thaqafi appointed as a shura, as qadi in his government period?
I can't remember the segment of the history of Mukhtar. Anyhow, for the Mukhtar, there are opinions in this regard that many consider him as a good individual, a good Shia of Ahlul Bayt. He took the revenge from the killers of Imam Hussein Salamullah alayhi, and he did very well. Some would stop on this personality because of some narrations. So, yeah.
Thank you very much, Sheikh. Assalamu alaikum wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullah. There's a question from the YouTube. My question is it sunnah to buy something from Medina after performing Umrah or Hajj?
I haven't seen any narration or heard any narration, but it's always good to buy some good gifts for the family members when you go back to from the Umrah or Hajj.
Thank you very much, Sheikh. A question from the YouTube. Is work halal if the mediator for the job free mixes with men?
In any kind of jobs that has haram, but you can avoid that haram, you can work. So there's a supermarket which says alcohol, but you don't work in that section, in that aisle. You work in the vegetable aisle, for example. You can work in that company or that supermarket. And the same applies to office work. If you can avoid the haram looks and the haram chats and banter and all kind of forbidden acts, charm and so forth, then you can work. So you have to observe, if you're a female, you have to observe the hijab correctly. If you're a male, you have to also have some kind of barriers when you come to chatting or talking to the opposite gender.
Thank you very much, Sheikh. Question from YouTube. My friend wears hijab secretly and doesn't cover when non-mahrams come to visit to avoid suspicion from her non-Muslim family. What should I tell her?
Again, advise billati ahsan. Use the best form and method to advise, to warn. Sometimes you have to say, you know, this is something that Islam doesn't encourage. Even look at the hijab of Sayyidah Maryam alayhi salam. Go to the churches around the UK and see that Sayyidah Maryam, she has a scarf on her head. Have you seen any?
Yeah, of course, yeah.
Without hijab, I haven't
Especially
seen.
in a lot of Orthodox churches, there's a
Exactly.
lot of portraits of.
So if Sayyidah Maryam was with hijab, so one should take care at least as a role model. And of course, our greatest role model is Fatima Zahra and Lady Zainab alayhi salam. So let's take them as role models and not others.
I think in terms of she wants to conceal her faith in front of her non-Muslim family. Is this a way forward to do this or no?
Non-Muslim family, so she takes off the hijab.
But basically, the question says that, you know, she takes off a hijab in front of her non-Muslim family. And when non-mahram come to her house, because they are non-Muslim and she doesn't want to say that she's a Muslim, she takes off her hijab. But however, when she goes outside by herself, she wears the hijab.
It's difficult because is there like a danger on her? Is there like something life-threatening situation? She has to go back to the Ahkam SOS and speak to one of the offices of the Maraja in your city area and see what can be done, because if you're not compelled or life-threatening situation, why should you do this, for example?
Thank you very much, Sheikh. Question from the YouTube. Do the Zaydi school of thought do sujood on the turba, and what is your opinion about it, and will they go Jahannam or not?
You see, if one ignores one Imam of Ahlul Bayt, just one, they are in hellfire. And that famous hadith, I think even mentioned by the Ahlul Sunnah, that 73 sects will be after my ummah, you know, after Rasulullah's demise, sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, in which 72 will go to hellfire and one will remain and go to paradise. So even if that sect was, they call themselves as Shia, claim to be a Shia of Ahlul Bayt, and they only follow 11 Imam, and they ignore Imam Mahdi's Imamah, they are in hellfire. Allah has given us, inna din and Allah al-Islam, Allah has given us a complete package of faith and religion. Kitab Allah wa Itra Ahl Bayti. The Itra are all Ahl Bayt, Muhammad al Muhammad. If you ignore one, khalas, you're finished. So we have to believe in the complete package. Not only Ahl Bayt alayhi salam. If you say, I don't believe in Isa alayhi salam, I don't believe in Musa, again, that's a problem. Because the nubuwwah is part of the usul al-din. If you ignore one prophet of Allah, mursal, like Nabi Isa, Musa, others, then you're in trouble in the Qiyamah.
It's problematic to disregard anyone in
Exactly.
terms of that case.
It's a full package, basically.
Thank you very much, Sheikh. A question from the YouTube. Was Talib the son of Abu Talib an actual person, or was Abu Talib just a title?
I think Abu Talib, he had about 9-10 sons, in which Ali alayhi salam was one of them.
Salamullah alayhi.
Salamullah alayhi. So I think, I can't remember exactly if he had a son called Talib, maybe, I'm not sure.
Thank you very much, Sheikh. A question from the WhatsApp. Why do Sunnis do not like Abu Talib?
I mean, we have to ask them, basically. We have to forward this question as to why you consider Abu Talib as a mushrik. And they have a narration with this regard, that he is now in hellfire, his feet is burning, and his brain is like boiling, na'udhu billah. You know, I don't know why they have such hatred towards Abu Talib. Is it because that he's father of Ali alayhi salam? The problem is the Umayyads, when they came, they started to create this, you know, hadith factory machine producing hadith in the time of the Umayyads, because 100 years the writing of the hadith
was banned. Yeah.
Till the Khilafah of Umar ibn Abdul Aziz, in which he allowed to be narrate the hadith of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So in this 100 years, of course, they fabricated lots of hadith in thousands, sadly.
In terms of that case, you know, Abu Talib alayhi salam is a different case, but in terms of the actual parents of the Prophet, why do Sunnis do not regard them as, you know, one of the close members the closest members to the Prophet? They don't regard them to a high status as, for example, Shias do. Why is the case for that?
Again, we have to forward this question to them, but you have to see why, because sometimes you see that to bring the status of their caliphs and leaders, because their parents of the caliphs, they were mushrikeen, basically, if you go back to their history. So sometimes it could be one of the reasons that to bring Rasulullah states to this position that, well, as our khulafa''s parents were mushrikeen, then the Rasulullah
has to be
mushrik, or it doesn't matter, you know. But we don't have such a belief that all their ancestors and you know, Rasulullah's fathers till Adam alayhi salam, they're all pure, tahirin, mutahharin, and they're all either prophets or vicegerents of the prophets.
I believe one of the ibarat in our ziyarah, I can't remember exactly what ziyarah, إنا نشهد أنك كنت نورا في الأصلاب الشامخة.
أصلاب الشامخة, exactly. You were a light in these loins in the back of the prophets and even the wombs of the mothers. والأرحام المطهرة, pure wombs of these mothers. So no, we don't have such a belief. As I've said, these are Umayyi beliefs and narrations.
Thank you very much, Sheikh. A question from the YouTube. One of my friend is going away from Islam. He speaks to women. How can I guide him?
Again, the best way is to use the al-maw'idha al-hasana, admonishment, hikmah, wisdom, and to bring him to the majalis of Ahlul Bayt alayhim salam. Let him listen to the lectures of our respected you know, scholars and lecturers in Muharram, in the month of Ramadan, in the blessing occasions of the birthdays of the Imams, of their Shahada, and inshallah gradually, or you can forward him links, like YouTube links for him to, or for her to listen and inshallah be guided soon.
Thank you very much, Sheikh. Another question from the WhatsApp. Can we respect someone who disrespects Ahlul Bayt, like Wahhabis and Sunnis?
In terms of disrespecting, of course, we have to disassociate ourselves from those who are enemies of Ahlul Bayt, alayhim salam. And we have a hadith which says that the Nasibi, the Imam says, the Nasibi is the one, an-Nasib li-Shi'atina, the one who shows enmity and hatred towards the Shia. Not only us Ahlul Bayt, but the Shia.
To the Shia as well.
Who kills, who gives fatwa that they are kafir, mushrik, you have to kill them. They are actual Nasibi in the words of the Imam alayhi salam.
In terms of someone wants to befriend them for advice, for, you know, bring them closer to the light.
If there is a hope, if there's a way, why not? Try your best. Otherwise, if they're stubborn, just ignore them and leave them. But try your best.
But in all regards, even if you don't want to, for example, convert them, I think akhlaq has to remain very mutual in terms of how they would interact with each other. You have to keep your akhlaq the same.
As a human being, yes, of course, with all the religions and faiths and creeds, yeah, why not?
Thank you very much, Sheikh. I believe a question from the YouTube. I want to ask, what is the daughter's share in her maternal grandmother's property if her mum has passed away and the daughter has 2 brothers?
I'll have to look at that, inshallah, next time, inshallah.
Thank you very much, Sheikh. I believe we have finished the allocated time for this show. We do apologize if we haven't got reaching to answer your questions. There's a mashallah a lot of questions coming through the WhatsApp. I believe there's still more on YouTube that hasn't been answered. Inshallah, this Wednesday, same time, 7 p.m. UK time, inshallah, we'll be here to answer your questions with Samahat Sheikh. Thank you very much for joining us today, Sheikhuna. And we thank our dear viewers at home. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. More than 3,000 members of the Shia Hazara community have been killed since September 2011, according to reports.
Hundreds of Iraqi pilgrims arrive at the house of Grand Ayatollah Shirazi.
On Saturday, the Saudi authorities executed 21 people on other charges.
Taliban abusing humanitarian aid in Afghanistan.
Shia Rights Watch expresses its condemnation on the targeted bombings in the Iraqi capital Baghdad.
There is so much happening that now is the right moment to bring together the biggest stories in one place at one time. It's ambitious, it's a first for the Shia around the world. Join me, Ayoub Nueno, for Shia Waves, live only on